This is not a very old incident. In 2006, in the Ukrainian capital, a young man was found in a very confused state. He was wearing old-fashioned clothes, and a vintage camera was hanging around his neck. People thought he was crazy, but little did they know that they were about to become part of a time travel story. Welcome once again of ASTV. Dear viewers, that man identified himself as Sergey. When the police asked him for his ID, it was issued by a country that no longer existed. Yes, the ID was from the Soviet Union. Now, you all know that Ukraine was once a part of the Soviet Union. However, by the time this incident took place, it had already been 2 decades since the Soviet Union collapsed. It wasn't that Ukrainian police had never seen a Soviet Union ID before, but this man appeared to be around 20 to 25 years old. Yet his date of birth on the ID was 1932. Not only that, but the picture on the ID was also his. This was something the police couldn't digest. How could someone born in 1932 still look like they were in their early 20s in 2006? The police asked Sergey what the date was that day. He paused for a moment and then answered, April 23rd, 1958. That was the moment when the police thought he was definitely crazy. They took him to a mental hospital, where Dr. Pablo Katrikov examined his mental health. Sergey himself was confused about what was happening to him. The doctor asked if he remembered how he traveled from 1958 to 2006. Sergey replied that he had gone out for a city walk during the day to take some good photographs. Suddenly, he saw a strange object flying in the sky. The doctor asked him what it looked like, and he replied that he couldn't explain it but had taken a picture of it with his camera. Saying this, he handed over his camera. Hearing this, the doctor was shocked, but his astonishment grew even more when he saw the camera. It was a very old Yashica Flex camera, yet it didn't look worn out at all. The real challenge was extracting the photographs because the film used in that camera had been discontinued since the 1970s. An expert named Adam Poisson was called in to examine the film. When he checked the manufacturing date, he found that it was produced in 1956. When he developed the photographs, things became even more confusing. The photos showed very old pictures of Kiev City, cars, buildings, and street signs from decades ago. Some buildings in the photos had already been demolished long ago. There were also pictures of Sergey with his girlfriend standing in front of those buildings. The most shocking part was that Sergey looked exactly the same in the pictures as he did sitting in front of the doctor in 2006. And in the last photo on the roll, as Sergey had mentioned, an unidentified flying object was visible. Seeing all this, the doctor found it extremely hard to believe. At this point, he had no choice but to accept that this man had somehow traveled through time from 1958 to 2006. While the doctor was still trying to process everything, Sergey left the room, shut the door behind him, and then vanished, never to be seen again. Sergey Ponomarenko disappeared without leaving any trace, except for his camera, a few photographs, and his strange story. A story that, the more one tried to understand, the more complicated it became. When the police investigated the case, they found that, in 1960, a man named Sergey Ponomarenko had indeed gone missing. They also tracked down the woman from the photographs, who was now a 70-year-old lady. She confirmed that Sergey had truly disappeared in 1958, but returned a few days later. He had been gone for exactly the same amount of time that he had appeared in 2006. However, according to that woman, Sergey vanished again in 1960 and never returned. But there was another twist to the story. Years later, she received a photograph of Sergey with a note that read, 2015. In this photograph, Sergey appeared older, and a city with skyscrapers was visible in the background. The only difference was that the city was filled with skyscrapers. He had also written that he would return soon, but for some reason, he never did. This intriguing story of Sergei Ponomarenko was aired on a Ukrainian TV show and quickly went viral on the internet. But the real question is, was this story true? Before answering that, let's first understand whether time travel is even possible. There is no doubt that in a way we are all traveling through time, towards the future. Every passing hour proves that we are moving forward in time. But if someone could somehow experience an hour in just half an hour, they would effectively be traveling half an hour into the future compared to others. Albert Einstein introduced this concept in his special theory of relativity, which states that time does not pass the same for everyone. It depends on an object's speed and mass. Just as oxygen levels change at different altitudes, time and space also depends on an object's speed and mass. Since we live on Earth, our time is influenced by Earth's mass and speed. But if we went to Jupiter, which has much greater mass, time would pass more slowly there. According to the theory, the greater the speed, the slower time passes. So, if we were in a spaceship traveling at the speed of light for 5 years and then returned to Earth, only 5 years would have passed for us, but 36 years would have passed on Earth. This difference in time is called time dilation. To prove Einstein's theory, an experiment called the Hafel-Keating experiment was conducted in 1971. 12 atomic clocks were synchronized, and some were placed on planes flying eastward, some westward, and some remained on Earth. When the planes completed their trips around the Earth, significant differences were observed in the clocks. The clocks on the eastward planes were 59 nanoseconds slower than the ground clocks, meaning time had passed slower for them. Meanwhile, the clocks on the westward planes were 273 nanoseconds ahead. This difference occurred because Earth rotates counterclockwise. Another method of future time travel is through gravity. According to Einstein's general theory of relativity, the stronger the gravitational field, the slower time passes. This was experimentally proven in 2010, when 2 atomic clocks were placed at different heights. The clock closer to the ground, experiencing stronger gravity, ran slower than the one placed higher. Though this difference was tiny, it proved that if we were near an extremely strong gravitational field like a black hole, time would slow down dramatically. This was depicted in the movie Interstellar, where an hour on a planet near a black hole equaled 7 years on Earth. Even GPS satellites, which have the most accurate clocks, must be constantly adjusted because their high-speed orbiting causes their time to lag behind Earth's time. We've discussed how traveling into the future is theoretically possible, but practically impossible because we currently lack the technology to build a spacecraft that can travel at light speed. As for Sergei Ponomarenko's story, it was aired in 2012 on a Ukrainian TV show called Aliens. The episode, titled Time Traveler, had several inconsistencies. For instance, in the CCTV footage, the date displayed was Wednesday, April 23, 2006. However, April 23, 2006 was actually a Sunday, meaning the video was likely edited. Additionally, experts believe that the stamp on Sergei's ID was different from actual Soviet-era stamps. Lastly, the 2015 photograph appeared to be heavily edited, with many identical buildings, suggesting it was photoshopped. There are no official police records of the investigation, and no information about Dr. Pablo Katrikov can be found online. Many internet users believe this well-crafted story was created for TV ratings. Confusion about time travel arises because people assume that if traveling to the future is possible, then traveling to the past should be too. But the scientific community believes that traveling to the past is impossible due to paradoxes. For example, If you traveled 10 years into the past and destroyed the time machine that brought you there, how would you have arrived in the first place? This is known as the time travel paradox. In 2009, physicist Stephen Hawking hosted a party for time travelers and only sent out invitations a year later. No one showed up, proving that traveling to the past is impossible. We hope you enjoyed this video from ASTV. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and leave your valuable comments. Thank you for your love and support. See you in the next amazing video.